Hello, everyone. Welcome to our live session today, Jira for Project Management. And we have Vlad and Michelle with us from Envorso. We're going to let them introduce themselves in a moment. I'm just going to get us started with a few housekeeping things. So, here is a quick walkthrough of the GoToWebinar dashboard. In case you're just joining us after a while of not being here, it might look a little bit different to you. This is the new GoToWebinar platform. So in the center of your screen, pretty large, you should see our slideshow going, and then you will have a few controls off to the right. So the important one to note for our purposes, since we're all attendees are going to be in mute, the raise hand function won't work, but the question function definitely will, and we would love for you to use that question function. So this is an interactive presentation today, and in fact, we're going to ask for some information from you up front, so we make sure this presentation is tailored to everyone's needs here, and we all get a lot out of it today. So the question box is going to look like this little question mark. You can click that and you can type a question. It'll go to myself and to Michelle, and then we will be managing questions for Vlad, so we'll get everyone's questions answered. Use that throughout the presentation as needed. And then you also have a few screen controls that are good to know. So you can take a screenshot with the top button there. You can zoom in and out in case you need to see a demo or a slide closer or further out. And then you can also use this full screen expand button as well. All right, and this is just a quick little plug for our new member forum. I will talk more about this at the end, but I want everyone to be aware that this new discussion forum is live, it's active, and it's so much more user-friendly than anything we've ever been able to offer before on the site. We're really excited about it. So stick around at the end. I will put that PDU code back up on your screen at the end, and then I'll just talk a little bit more about the forum. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and we will introduce our presenter for today. Passing screen control over to you now, and you can go ahead.
Sharing. Thank you, Morgan. I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if it's visible.
Looks good.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Just want to mention this is my first presentation with MPAG, so if I cannot share for some reason, I'm just learning the tool. Today we're going to talk about Jira for project management. Before we begin, we have a quiz for you. In order to join the quiz, you can click on this URL or by going to slido.com and entering the code. The code is Jira 2024 with a capital J. Or you can scan the QR code with your phone. We don't keep your emails. You can register as, you don't have to give your full name. You don't have to register as with your email address. We don't keep that information. It will help us tailor the presentation, and we also have some technical questions for you. At the end, you will first person or the first persons will win a 60 minutes private session with me or one of my colleagues just to talk about Jira, Jira setup, Jira project management, or anything else that you
If
would like
anyone's
to talk
having
about.
trouble finding this URL for the quiz in the chat, just drop a question in the questions box and we'll send it to you directly as well.
Okay, I already see some questions, some answers coming, so thank you for that. Okay, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about briefly about project management methodologies. Then we're going to go into Jira, see its main components. We're gonna show a demo. We're going to talk to you about some good practices, and at the end, hopefully, we'll have time for a Q&A session. As I can see in your replies, most of you mentioned that you are beginners. You've used it a little bit, so I hope you will get the most out of this session.
Perfect. Thank you all for that feedback. That's very helpful.
Okay, as an introduction, my name is Vlad Petrescu. I'm a technical director with Envorso. I'm also a certified Atlassian consultant, been for 4 or 5 years now. I've been working with Jira and the Atlassian tools for, I think, more than 10 years, if I'm not wrong. first as a developer, then a Scrum Master, Program Manager, CTO of an Atlassian partner. So I've seen a lot of configurations, a lot of setups, a lot of good practices, and a lot of bad practices. Let's go to first question number one that goes after we talk about your level. Which methodology is better? Is it agile or is it waterfall? Okay, modern tools like Jira are designed to take advantage of an agile process. However, Atlassian is the company that created Jira. They're brilliant and they allow you to use waterfall, agile, or a combination of both. Today we're going to talk a bit about both of them, about agile and about waterfall. We're not going to have time to go into details, but I'm going to present on a high level how you can create a project and use both methodologies. I think you're more familiar than I am, and you know that waterfall was the first one. Um, I'm a visual learner, and I like to learn by examples. So I'm going to give you a lot of examples, and I would like to to show you what waterfall is by making a comparison to a recipe. It's like following the recipe to the letter. You add this ingredient, you add adding that ingredient, which has its benefits and its disadvantages. One of the main disadvantages is that you might realize halfway through your cooking that you either forgot the ingredient or maybe people just want cake and not want soup. What do you do at that point? In waterfall, every step is planned in advance, and it happens in sequential order. I remember when I was a developer and I used to work in a waterfall, first we would gather the requirements, then we would plan, then we would build, then we would test, release, and then at the end, we would monitor. One example of like the most clear example that I can think of a waterfall project is, well, delivering a car with working brakes. You need working brakes for a car. They must adhere to standards, they must follow regulations. You cannot do improvements on the way. You have a car that needs to have full working brakes. End of discussion. That is waterfall. Now, what is agile? Agile, it's the new kid on the block. The basic book of agile, it's actually an agile manifesto, four principles written by some smart fellows, I think around 20 years ago. I might be wrong with this, but around 20 years ago. The summary of that manifesto is people over processes, ship early and fail fast. Third one would be people lie. They don't lie, but they don't know exactly what they want, or they might not know what they don't know. So get it into the people's hand as fast as possible. And at the end, iterate, refine, and improve. In, in four short sentences, this is what Agile is all about. We don't have all of the plans in advance. You don't know from the beginning what you're gonna get at the end of the project. You know the baseline, but don't know all of the teeny little details. Examples of Agile projects. A website to enable sales. That's a clear example. You don't know from the beginning what will appeal most to your customers. Might be a white background, a blue background. So you test, you see which one to which the customers respond better, and then you make that change, and so on and so forth. Based on this, let's look at the voting. Which methodology is better? And the answer is, well, neither is better than the other. They each have their own use cases. Each is best for a certain type of project. Okay, Jira. What is Jira? This is the second question of the day. Jira is made by Atlassian. It's a company that's focused on unleashing the power of every team, or that's what they say. Its flagship products are Jira, that's for used mostly for project management, You might have Jira Align, which is used for Agile at scale, Confluence for as a knowledge-based tool, Bitbucket for code repositories, and so on and so forth. They're actually going into AI right now, so they're introducing AI functionalities in every tool, and I've seen a demo, and it's really amazing. But that's outside of the scope of this meeting. Jira was launched in 2022, and it started as a simple issue and bug tracker for software developers. No more, no less. Atlassian did a great job. Jira became one of the most loved tools. And I remember that like more than 15 years ago, I was blown away by what it can do. I mean, no more tasks received by email. Everybody knew what everybody was working on. You could communicate easily, and I loved it. Also, easy to use interface. I mean, compared to what tools were available 15 years ago, it was a breakthrough. Over the years, they expanded the capabilities of Jira and included project management functionalities, um, agile methodologies. You can use Scrum, you can use Kanban, and there's unlimited customization options. That's an advantage and also a disadvantage. We'll talk about it at the end. Today, Jira is so much more than this. You have so many teams and departments outside of IT and software development using it. You have marketing, HR, logistics, and almost anything. I think Atlassian says that more than 85% of the S&P 500 companies use Jira, which is mind-blowing. They have more than 65,000, maybe 65,000, or since this morning, maybe 66,000 companies globally using Jira. The funniest examples that I can share with you is that The Simpsons, they used it to draw each episode and manage each episode with Jira, which, uh, if you think about it, doesn't make any sense. But as more as you learn Jira, the more you learn about Jira, the more you learn about its capabilities, and that this is simple, this is easy. Another use case is airlines that use it to manage the food supply in every flight. So not to manage the software behind every flight, but to manage the food supply in every flight. How many meals goes into every plane, which is, I would never thought about this. And also I have a friend that used Jira to plan his wedding, which I found, I found a geeky, I found him to be too geeky. I mean, Jira is good for many things, whatever works for him. So what is Jira? Well, all of the answers are correct. This is a story of how it started. Software developers, a tool for software developers, then a complete project management tool, and what it is like now with its customized, with how much it can be customized. It's a workflow management engine, and I'm going to show you in a minute what this means. Main components of Jira. We have a question that is a bit more technical. You might know the answer to this, or you might not. I'm going to share at the end of the slide how you can read this, this weird text and what you can get out of it. Okay, main components of Jira. First component is a project. In layman term, it's a container of work. There are multiple types of projects configured specifically for Scrum, for Kanban, or simple task tracking, but it's a container of work. No more, no less. What is an issue? An issue is a single element within a project. Usually issues have a hierarchy, and you start with the smallest unit of work. It's called a subtask in Jira. I don't usually recommend it due to having some specific details, but you can use subtasks. Then a subtask parent is a task, a story, a defect, or bug. It's usually, how I would describe it is unit of work that can be done, resolved in a few days. And it's important to be consistent when you are defining types of issues. So if a defect means something for one team, it should mean the same thing for the other team as well. Otherwise, you're going to have many inconsistencies. You're going to find it's very easy to, it becomes more difficult to maintain, to manage, and to use Jira. We have
Hey, Vlad.
above, yes,
Can
please.
I interrupt you with a quick question,
Yes, please.
if I may? Would you mind just briefly covering the purpose of what is the purpose of Jira, purpose of Jira Align, Confluence, and Bitbucket? So maybe just like a quick recap, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Jira, it's mostly used for project management. It's a workflow management tool, so it can manage any type of workflow, but it's mostly used in the project management area. Jira Align is for agile at scale. So if you have a huge company, if you work with, I think the Atlassian says more than 500 users, and you want to scale, and you want to implement one scaled agile framework like Less or Scrum at Scale or others, you can use Jira Align. So it's one layer above Jira. Michelle, you mentioned Confluence or Bitbucket?
Confluence and Bitbucket.
Confluence and Bitbucket. Confluence is a knowledge-based tool. So you have pages with information which can seamlessly link to Jira projects. They don't have to, but they can. Think of it like Google Docs or SharePoint. It's similar to SharePoint in that you have documents. However, in Confluence, you don't have documents, you have pages, HTML pages, web pages where you can put information and link together as to a project. Bitbucket. Bitbucket is code repository. So it's used just in software development, and it's where developers put their code, where they work together and collaborate towards a common goal. That is the place where all of the developers at the end of the day will upload their code and synchronize their code. There are
Perfect.
other Atlassian tools, but let's keep it simple for now.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Vlad.
Michelle. Okay, let's go back to Jira main components. We talked about issues. Now we have workflows. Workflows are the steps an issue goes from the creation to completion. Workflows contain statuses. One status would be to do in the beginning, in progress after you've started working on it, and at the end it's done. And transition is just the action of moving one issue from one status to the other. A board. A board is nothing more than just a visual representation of the work. And I'm going to show you immediately what boards are and how you can interact with them. Fields. Fields are just attributes of issues. You can make your issue specific to your project or to your work. For example, priority. An issue can have a priority, so you know which issue is more important or more urgent than others. Issues can have descriptions, assignee, strategy, due date, and an infinite number of custom fields. We have issue links, which can just connect one issue to another. A type of link is a ticket blocks another ticket. An issue depends on another ticket. So just ways to connect issues. Jira query language. It is a query language, as the name says, used in Jira, surprisingly, and it's used to search and filter issues. You can construct complex queries. For example, let's look at the jQuery query at the left. If you don't know how to read this, you start by thinking, give me all of the issues that, and then you start reading. Project equals Avengers, so from the project Avengers, and priority equals high, with a high priority, and resolution is unresolved. So basically, this will return all of the unresolved high priority issues in the Avengers project. So the correct answer is B. Okay, we've talked about project management methodologies, and I'm going to start with one framework that implements Agile. This framework is called Kanban. I believe most of you are already using it. What is the question of this slide is, what does the term Kanban originally mean in Japanese? This is a Japanese word. Kanban was invented in Japan. Where do you use it? Usually, you use the Kanban methodology when you need to visualize and manage a continuous flow of work. Just to give you one example, you would use that when there's an onboarding process in your company. Somebody comes in your company, there's a new joinee, you get that person a laptop, you get access to the building, you get access to some of the tools, to email, you create an email account, and there's a certain steps that you need to follow in order. That is a continuous flow of work, and that's why I think you should use the Kanban methodology. It's the basics of Kanban is, well, you have a board, which is your project's command center. You can visualize work in progress, and you can track tasks from the start to finish, and you can keep the team synchronized and organized. I'm going to show you in a moment what a Kanban board looks like. You also have a backlog. You can use Jira to create and prioritize tasks in the backlog, ensuring a steady stream of work for the team. So it's just where tickets get created before people start working on them. One other not known thing about Kanban is that you need a work in progress limit. It's important to keep the number of items that are in progress to the minimum. And the main benefit of this is that you reduce context switching, so therefore you improve productivity. As meetings, you just have a daily meeting, a status meeting during the day. You have optional other meetings, but this is not the right moment to talk about meetings, because people will have many opinions, and I don't want to disagree with anybody. It's very flexible, I might say. Let's look at what Kanban is in practice. This is a Kanban board. I've drawn this in Miro. You can draw this you can use post-its on a whiteboard. Here are three statuses. First status would be not started, then in progress, then done. And you have tickets. And what is the simplest example that, well, I've used here? I've created an intro slide. So I've created first initially a list of things that I needed to do for this presentation. I didn't start on any. After I moved them in progress, I did the slide, then I moved the ticket to done. This is a Kanban. This is a Kanban board. This is a transition. This is a workflow. This is a item. This presents everything in Jira. If you understood this, you understood the basics of Jira. However, life is not that simple, and you will most likely have a more complex workflow. This workflow starts with, well, not started. Then I start to work on the intro slide. So I move the ticket here into add layout. Then I've added some text. Then I've reviewed the text with one of my colleagues. He added some comments. Then I reviewed again. He approved. Then I did the dry run. And at the end, we've completed this slide. Another example, we did a dry run and we realized, no, this is too much detail or not relevant to this presentation. So we just canceled the ticket. What I want you to understand is that usually in any project, the workflow is more complex than to do in progress done. You have multiple steps, you have maybe approvals, and Jira can help you implement all of that. Now let's go into Jira. Before we get into Jira, let's look at the answer of the question. What does Kanban originally mean in Japanese? It means visual sign. It's just a visual representation of work. Okay, if you haven't seen this before, this screen, this is Jira. This is a Kanban project. And just to make a comparison with the Miro board, with the post-it that I've showed you earlier, we have 3 columns here, each representing the statuses. We have the status to do, we have the status in progress, we have the status done. When you first start working on a ticket, it'll be in the to-do status. Then as I start working on it, I'm going to drag it into in progress. At the end, I'm going to move it to done. What is a ticket? Well, let's click on it and look at more details. Here you have the fields, the attributes of the ticket. Actually, I'm going to open a more interesting slide, a more interesting issue. That is the create slide waterfall versus agile. The fields, the attributes are, for example, assignee. I can assign it to me. I can put a label, a priority, parent, and so on and so forth. For those of you that know Jira and have started already to explore and to work with it, you might want to know that you can have custom fields, and I've created one custom field here called initiative, and I can select one of its values from one of the values from one of the drop-down values: reduce cost, launch new technology, grow sales. This is entirely customizable. So the level to which you can customize Jira is unlimited. Well, almost unlimited. There's one more thing I want to show you here is comments. As I said, Atlassian wants to make everybody's life easy, so you can add comments and discuss on this ticket with other colleagues. So I'm gonna send a comment to my colleague Michelle. Michelle, please verify my slide.
This actually, if I'm going to interject for a second, Vlad.
You're Michelle, right?
What Vlad just showed you is probably at the heart of the most powerful element of Jira. And the whole sort of gestalt around Jira, what it's built around, is to bring all of the conversations around a particular topic into an issue and around and store it around that particular element. So the key thing here is that it removes all of the conversations happening in Slack, all the conversations happening in email, and then you have to go track it down. Okay, so who said that in email? What email was it? And then who said it to who? And then they have a conversation about a topic. We've all been there, right? I mean, we've done this in Slack, we've done this in Teams, and the really most powerful element is to get people within your organization to have conversations about the topic in one central location that is part of the workflow management tool. And so you will find in practice, I've seen in comments, they can go on for pages and pages, and there can be very lively conversations. I've actually seen, you might laugh, you see the spat going on and people having arguments going back and forth on comments. You see lively discussions and really things about this, but it really is the most powerful tool element to this, which is getting all of those conversations in a centralized location that are organized around a particular, what Jira calls an issue, but it's a particular work item. So if you're in marketing, it could
Yeah.
be an issue could be a graphic element for an ad campaign. And then everybody can like banter back and forth about like, what do they think about this picture? No, I want this kind of a background. No, I don't like a setting in the mall. I want a setting in nature. I want, And what it does is it encapsulates all of that so that Vlad, who's actually responsible for delivering, say, that photo, he doesn't have to search. It's so much faster and easier for the person actually producing the work because everything they need is all contained right within this particular ticket. So it may seem really simple what Vlad did, but it really highlights probably the most powerful element of Jira within project management and workflow. And that is just bringing all of those conversations right at the center where they need to be. So, anyways, Vlad, take it
Michelle,
away.
Michelle, it's like a single source of truth, is it?
Yep.
You don't look in
Yep.
5 different tools. You just look in one page, actually, in one web page, and you see everything around this ticket.
You can have links to documents, you can have links to pictures. I mean, it's really meant to be the central repository of that particular element that's represented within an issue. And then what's great about that is, as Vlad shows, you can assign labels, you can have custom things with initiatives so that you can then slice and dice all of this, however your organization needs to see it. So take it away, Vlad. And sorry for the
Thank you.
intrusion.
No, I think you said it. I think that was helpful. Thank you for helping me with this presentation. Okay, let's go back to our board. We have one more thing and that I want to show you, and that is the backlog. There's a button here at the left of the menu. You have a backlog. When tickets get created, none some of them are not complete, so they get pulled into a backlog. Usually what happens is that in this case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 work items. The person responsible for this workflow, for this presentation, usually goes through these tickets, makes sure that the information is clear and that whoever addresses the tickets has all of the information they need. And after that happens, they just drag tickets from the backlog into the to-do column. And so your team can see, so that was ticket number KP-1. I'm going to go back to the Kanban board, and I'm going to see here the ticket that was added to the board. Okay, you can see here two expandable items. One is called sales and one is called expedite, and everything else. That's the third one. This is just another way to make your visualization easier, to make your life easier. If imagine there's a team of 10 people, each working on 1, 2, or 3 issues, this list can grow a lot. And it's very easy to filter. And you can filter by either adding these expandable lines, these are called swim lanes, or by the filters here at the top of the board. I can filter, these are my tickets. So the list was reduced to the tickets that are assigned to me. I can filter by only my issues, recently updated, and I can add any filter here very easily. You can do that from the settings of this board. If I were to show you one more thing, I would show you reports, and we don't have much time, so I'm going to go to one report, cumulative flow diagram. So this helps you identify bottlenecks that need to be looked at. Each color represents one status, and the first column is backlog. You can see that from the 22nd or 21st of May, all of the tickets were in backlog. Then on the 27th of May, somebody started to add the tickets on the board, so they're ready to be looked at. On the 29th, somebody started to work on a ticket. On the 2nd of June, somebody finished the ticket. And so as time goes on, you'll see more tickets here in this last status, in the last color, as people address and finish those tickets. You can see here that if after some time there is the number of tickets for a specific color, which is a status, grows, that means that there's a problem. So If too many tickets are in to do, that means that as more and more tickets are added to the to do status, that means that you maybe don't have enough people to address these tickets, and you need more people in the team, or you need to give some trainings to your team, or you need to look at the process, skills, and well, there are so many reasons to look at that scenario. Also, if a ticket is in progress and remains in progress for too much time, days, weeks, months, well, end users will be frustrated. So you need to look about what's impeding the progress of that task. Is it a blocker? Is it a dependency to another team? Is it not having enough information? Each scenario is different. There are so many reports out of the box, and these reports represent live data. So it gives a very good representation of what is the status of my project, my process, my workflow right now. It's not a snapshot in time, it's live information. I'm gonna go now to a Scrum project. The difference between Scrum and Kanban, from the Jira perspective, are not many projects. Are not many. Um, I don't think you could tell the difference between this board and the board that I've told you previously about. The difference is that just this button completes sprint. This is again a board. You can say it's a Kanban board, but it's actually a board where you can see the tickets in and their statuses: to do, in progress, done. What is a sprint? Because there's the button complete sprint. It's used in Scrum, and it represents a period of time, usually between 1 week or 4 weeks, at the end of which you demonstrate the work to your stakeholders or to your customers. And then, depending on your process, you either release in production, or I don't know what the process for me, it might be very different to any different project. For the looking at the time right now, I'm gonna go through the whole, I'm gonna act as product owner, Scrum Master, and everything else. In 2 minutes, I'm gonna stop the sprint. I'm gonna complete the sprint. So I'm gonna complete the period of time of 2 weeks. I'm being asked, there's a ticket that hasn't been completed. It's still in progress. What do you want to do with it? I'm gonna move it to the next sprint. I'm gonna create this little button. And sprint number 2 was completed. Now, this is usually done during the sprint review meeting, where you demonstrate the work to your stakeholders. You see if you have any feedback. You see if they accept the work, if the work was done according to the requirements, and you finish the sprint. Now, there are other Scrum meetings, like the sprint retrospective, which is to improve the process. We're not going to go into that. I'm going to go all the way to the sprint planning session. The sprint planning session is happening at the beginning of the sprint, where you look at what your team can achieve in the next sprint, the next 2 weeks. So if I look here, we have already 1, 2, 3, 4 items planned for the next sprint. Is this enough? Is this too much work or not enough work? Well, with Agile, you just need to look back at previous experiences and learn from that. And I'm going to go quickly to a report that is called the velocity chart. And it doesn't have a lot of data, but it can show me that previously, in the previous sprint, in sprint number 2, I've committed at the beginning of the sprint to resolve around 8 story points, and I've resolved actually 13 story points. Before that, in another period of 2 weeks, I've resolved 15 story points. That means that my potential, or my team's potential, to address issues is between 12, 15, give or take. I didn't mention what a story point is. A story point is a unit of of measure of relative work. So we don't estimate in days or hours, we estimate in story points. That's a bit more abstract, and it's a relative measure of complexity. There are some documents online also posted by Atlassian why you should use story points instead of hours or days. However, this is a very long discussion. With Fibonacci, with story points, I'm just going to tell you that usually, and this is not mandatory, use the Fibonacci numbers as estimates of work. So you have one story point, or two, or three, or five, or eight, or 13. But actually, if you reach a certain number, that means that you can break down your work into smaller chunks. Back to my report. My team can address between 12 and 15 story points. Now let's see. In total, I have 5 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1, so around 9 story points. Based on previous experiences, that means that I can add some more work into the next sprint. And I will check the backlog, see that there's a ticket with the high priority. So if I look at this ticket, you will see one of the attributes, priority, being highest. For me, that means that this is, out of all of the tickets, the most important one. So I will move it to the current sprint. Now I have 17. It's a bit of a stretch, but I think I'm confident that my team can address all of these in the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna click the button, click sprint, and my sprint starts. Now with Scrum, every day through the sprint, so that's 10 working days in 2 weeks, people will meet every day and discuss the progress, dependencies, and blockers, and that meeting is called a sprint planning, a daily stand-up meeting. It shouldn't take more than 15 minutes, and I think all of the cases while I've worked in projects where I've seen projects implementing Scrum, I've never seen a team having meetings for less than 20 minutes. That is the basics of a Scrum project. And I just want to show you one more thing because we don't have much time. I'm going to go into another presentation of one of these projects. I'm going to go to plans. I've created previously a plan. I just want to show you the visual representation of what we've created so far. So this was the first project. It's called the Kanban presentation. Just for me to be able to identify quickly the project. And here you have, it's like a waterfall representation of my project. You have start dates, you have end dates, and you have little lines in between that mentioned that this is a dependency. I can look at this line over here and say that, and see that there's a dependency, and I plan to start work on a ticket before I complete one of the dependencies, and this might be a problem or it might not. You would want to take a look on this. This is just a visual representation. It's not a special other type of project. You can have these so-called plans in either Scrum or Kanban type of projects, and they just provide a different way to look at your project, to see where you are, and to show this to different audiences. You don't usually use this on a day-to-day basis. Good practices and bad practices. And that leads to the next question, which is the last one. Should you choose to receive notifications for any Jira issues that you're remotely involved in? You can choose to do that, or you can choose not to do that. Okay, good practices. Before you start work on a project, ask yourself this question. Are we delivered continuously or at the end of the project? Jira can support both types of projects. However, if you don't choose the type of project that you actually want, the tool will provide more problems than solutions. The tool will not help you. It's important to choose at the beginning of a project the type of the board of project tailored to what you are doing. The second practice is use standardized issue types and workflows as much as possible. You can create any number of issue types, workflows, statuses. That is entirely possible. However, I would highly recommend you just keep it simple, keep it basic. You will save yourself a lot of headaches in the future. Another good practice is communicate properly, be transparent, and communicate. And Atlassian is great helping you do that. You can have comments. You can mention you can add mentions to and mention other colleagues of yours. You can have discussions directly on the ticket. Don't use Jira and your email and SharePoint and Confluence and 5 more other tools, because otherwise you're going to have it very difficult to find information. One other good practice is automations. You can save time in Jira with automations. And Jira has a very intuitive UI, which allows everybody to create automations. Think about, let me give one simple example. When I create a ticket, I want Michelle to be alerted. I want Michelle to receive an email. That is an automation that can be easily implemented. However, Michelle's going to be spammed, so I don't want to do that. The last good practice that I want to talk to you about is training and support. Now, you can find multiple training materials online for Jira, for project management methodologies, be it either Scrum or Kanban or Waterfall. Use them. Learn about Jira, learn about what it can do, and you will see that it can tackle most of your challenges. I want to leave you at the end with useful links. Before I do that, let's go back to the quiz. Should you receive notifications for any Jira issue you're remotely involved in? I would advise against, because everybody has a folder called emails I don't care about, where every Jira email goes. So I think it's better to keep it simple. Just receive notifications on things that you're actually interested about. Don't spam, because if everything is important, if everything is high priority, nothing is high priority. Useful links. You can try Jira for free. You can have up to 10 users, and you can use Jira for free for life. There's no trial period. You can just go to the Atlassian website, and you will be able to start quickly a Jira instance. You can look at Jira templates, which can help you implement the right project for your needs. Also, if you need additional help, you can check out envorso.com or send me an email at vlad.petrescu@envorso.com. We didn't get time to look at more other topics. However, this is a very broad subject, and if there's anything that you would like to learn more about, send me an email. We'll schedule a 60 minutes conversation that's free of charge, and we can help you set up your Jira instance.
Great. Hey, Vlad, I've got a couple of questions. Why don't
Please.
we jump into those? First one is from Michelle Williams. Actually, Michelle has a couple of questions, so we'll just go through Michelle's. Does Jira do reporting such as overall percent complete, variances, and does it also offer timesheets?
Yes. The answer to all of these questions is yes. In some cases, you might need a Jira third-party app, which you can install to offer timesheet capabilities, very advanced ones. Also, Jira by default has simple timesheet capabilities, which you can extend. And you can have all types of reports. The ones that you mentioned, we're going to have to look into detail of what exactly you would like to achieve, but yes.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and also, Michelle, related to that, if you don't want to use story points, you can actually use time as well.
Yes.
There's if that fits your scenario better, then absolutely you can certainly use time instead of story points, and then measure against that as well. Um,
Yes, any report can show information based on either story points or time. Atlassian is very flexible in this area.
yep,
They recommend using story points because it relieves the pressure of time from the end users, but that's very subjective, and that's a very long
yeah,
conversation.
yeah. Another so related to that, Vlad, does it do time phased reporting?
Yes, you
Okay,
can you can if you've seen the cumulative flow chart that I've shown you earlier, that was just for the past 3 months. However, I can change this filter to show me
yeah,
information on past week, past year, or any period of time in the past. And that applies to, I think, all of the projects, all of the reports.
yeah. And finally, I'm actually going to take Michelle's last question because this is one of my favorite scenarios that so rarely happens, Michelle, but when it does, it's a nice treat. The question is, if you committed to story points but actually completed more than committed, what happens? And the question is then, do you pull in additional user stories? And the answer to that is yes. If you've actually completed more than you've done, you can always add additional work to the sprint, and then continue adding it that way. And it's one of the benefits to that Vlad really alluded to, and one of the important elements of sprints is that they are very, they're an arbitrary defined period of time. And then what's nice about them is if you continue to use them over and over, you develop a sense and an ability for your teams, how much work a team can deliver over a particular period of time. And what's nice is when you record this, then you can go back and look at your history and get an actual answer that's based on real data. And where that's incredibly powerful and helpful is really managing expectations to all of your audiences, both externally, internally, or whomever you need to report to. So it's a way to then communicate out to the world, hey, your work is going to be done in sprint 52, and that's scheduled to start July 7th. And we have fairly decent confidence that we should hit that based on our history and how we're managing it. Or your particular product is going to be done in sprint 43, or your task. So it's a great way to really use those. And absolutely, Michelle, if you do more than you've committed, just keep on adding it.
Kudos to you.
Likewise, if you've added too much, as Vlad showed, you can always push things back to the next sprint or to future sprints.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think story points, the goal of story points is not to estimate perfectly each story, each sprint, but look at a larger period of time and estimate that. For example, you have a huge amount of work, you have a project with 1,000 story points. You don't actually care if people delivered X amount of story points in sprint 5, but you would care that the average is quite close to the actual truth. What people estimate is actually close to the actual truth on a bigger scale of things. So that you know, can I finish this project in 6 months? On average, yes or no.
Yeah. Any other questions? We what Vlad, just in final summary, we are we are in Vorso, and we do offer an Atlassian consulting practice. So anybody who's attended this session, you do have access to a free 60-minute session with either Vlad, one of our other solutions engineers. So if you want to go deep dive, like Michelle, if you want to go deep dive, just email, we get in touch. Happy to do a sit down 60-minute session. For that, we also have a couple of other products. If you would like, we can do an assessment in 5 days to give you a roadmap of how to take further advantage of that. Or if you're exploring something new and you kind of want to just do a POC, we also have a product that allows you, we will build you a POC in 2 weeks to allow you to really explore and understand the potential of a new project that you're taking on with Atlassian. So those are the 3 ways that we can immediately help you with your journey on Jira.
A great
Morgan,
offer. Yes, I just wanted to say we really appreciate that offer, and I hope everyone is able to take advantage of that. Could you show the slide with your contact information one more time, just so we're sure everyone has their
It's the previous slide.
ways to reach you? Yes, great. And if you like, Vlad, you're welcome to send me your slide deck so I can put that up with the replay as well. Um,
Yeah, we'll do.
Great. So there will be a replay available on mpug.com within 24 hours after we wrap up today. You can revisit this presentation anytime. As members, you get full access to our entire archive of replays, including this one. And Michelle just dropped contact information in the chat again, so you should see that. You can reach out to either of our presenters today to follow up on this offer and more questions, which is great. We really appreciate that. We do have about 4 minutes, actually precisely 4 minutes left before the top of the hour. So if there's any last minute questions, feel free to drop them in. We'll hang out here until 1 o'clock Eastern. And I will go ahead and share the PDU code for today. So I'm going to take screen sharing back. We'll make sure you can get your credit for today. All right, so the code to claim your credit for today is MPUG 061224. You can claim that through PMI for today's session. And I promised to share a little bit about the forum, so I'll just do that real quick while we have everyone and we're waiting. In case there's a last minute question, feel free to just jump back in, either of you, Michelle or Vlad. But here on your screen is a preview of what the MPUG community forum looks like. So we're inviting all members to come in. It's still getting started. It's still in its upstart phases, but we would love to have you in there. You'll find resources, templates, job boards, networking opportunities, discussions. Right now, our main discussion groups are Microsoft Project, project management, and then certification support. So we'll share articles in there. There's great questions. We have lots of experts, MPUG MVPs is what we call them in our community. They're chiming in, so it's a great way to just connect with experts in the field and peers. We can crowdsource solutions. We can talk about different issues that everyone runs into on the daily, and it's really great. So the way to get to it, it's super easy. You just go to mpug.com, sign in with your MPUG credentials, hover over the community dropdown, and then right on the homepage, you'll see community dropdown, and then you click discussion forum, or you can type community.mpug.com into your browser, and that'll take you there. The first time you sign in, it just takes a couple minutes to set up your profile, but then every other time you can click from the homepage, mpug.com, community discussion forum, and get right into the forum. It's easy to sign in and join the conversation. So I wanted to share that. Here's the code
perfect.
one more time. Yeah, and
Thank
presenters
you.
are more than welcome too. So we'd love to see y'all in there. It's a great way to continue the
Yeah,
conversation on topics like this too.
I will absolutely be joining you. You read my mind.
Great,
And
wonderful,
we have one more question, and
great.
it's going to be, I'm going to challenge Vlad a little bit on
Okay.
this one.
Oof.
What is the difference between Jira and Jira Align? However, when you answer, you can't use the term agile at scale, because I have a funny feeling many people don't actually know what that is. So, without using agile at scale, explain the difference between Jira and Jira Align.
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Next time, I'm going to take the challenge of taking whole presentations without using one of the letters in the alphabet. So imagine you have a huge project, like delivering a car. You have thousands and thousands of developers. Some of them are working on hardware, software. Some of them are working on cloud functionality. Some are working on warranty, completely different aspects. It's very difficult to manage that in Jira. It's very difficult to have a holistic picture and image about everything that's happening. You can go up to, so you have subtask, task, and epic. However, in those large projects, you have 3 layers above that. So the level of complexity is enormous. Jira Align is a tool that doesn't implement any specific functionalities, any specific methodologies. However, it allows you, it facilitates that use case. It allows you to see information at a grander level than just what Jira can do. It's Jira on steroids, but it just has specific use cases. And I've seen many companies using Jira Outline just because it's possible. However, they don't tick all of the boxes and they didn't have a good experience. So if you have a large project, a huge project, if you're an enterprise with 5,000 users or more than 1,000 users, that's a tool that you can use.
Yeah. I've often seen Jira Align used when more at the executive level, kind of director level, when you're trying to manage a portfolio of projects. And what you're looking for is sort of the overview of all of the projects, not specifically all the details about who's doing what task that's related to this particular feature that then is related to this piece of software that then gets shipped with this piece of thing on this particular blah, 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 blah. Jira Align is much more about you've got a portfolio of projects. You might have a portfolio of initiatives for the company, and you're then trying to align those projects against your initiatives and get that more holistic view. That's a great case for Jira Align versus Jira. And as Vlad has mentioned, it's really focused mostly on the larger enterprise scale, are the people who use that.
People and teams will work in Jira. However, managers and people above managers will work in Jira Align, and data gets synchronized and aligned.
Right. Yep. Perfect. Thanks, everybody. This is awesome. I really appreciate all the questions.
Thank you guys so much. We appreciate everyone spending the hour with us, and thank you to our experts here today. It was great to hear from you. I think we have some good follow-up ideas for future sessions as well from the questions we got today. So we'll be in touch, and everyone can keep a lookout.
Thank you, Cindy.
Them back. All right. Thank you so much. We will let everyone get on with the rest of their days, and we'll see you. NPUG will be back next week with another live session. We're here every Wednesday. Hopefully, we'll have the Envorso team back with us sometime soon as well. All right.
Happy to be here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, everybody.